Welcome to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels, the show where bold business owners, savvy entrepreneurs, and sharp thought leaders push boundaries, challenge conventions, and redefine success in sales and marketing. And now your hosts, Nicholas Luisi and Marco Salinas.
I love me some blues guitar. I love that intro. Too cool. What's up, young man? How are you?
I'm doing great, Nick. How are you? It's great to be back in here again with you again. Even though virtually, I feel like we're in the same studio, you know?
I hear you. Season 2 for all of you listeners out there. My mom, Marco's mom, my cousin from the third family over, you know, all of our guests and listeners. It's phenomenal. Thank you for a great first season. We got a lot of good stuff planned for you for second season. We are going deep in the Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle world, you know, as we try to pay homage to a man that was near and dear to all of our hearts, Dan Kennedy, right? We're going to bring a lot of his really good students on because, you know, listen, that type of marketing never gets old. And marketing makes the world go round and makes it easier. So we're going to go deep on that with a lot of guests in this season, as well as, you know, kind of giving our own flavor, which we're going to do today in our inaugural thing. But listen, in this crazy mixed up world that we're dealing with today, marketing and sales is more important and I think more difficult. And Marco, I'm curious on your thoughts on that. Deals are taking longer. There is an absence or vacuum of trust, if you will. And, you know, listen, marketing solves all those cure ills, right? So, you know, you can't run around telling people how great you are. Your marketing has to do it and your testimonials have to do it. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk, you know, we've both been on the road. I've been speaking, you've been speaking. You know, I just wrote about this on LinkedIn, the power of live events and being on stages or being in exhibit halls or all of that, I think is going to be more important in the AI world. And that's probably a separate thing that we'll unpack. But yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. How's that sound, Marco?
Man, I'm super excited, my friend. Let's do it. Let's dive right in.
All right. So first and foremost, folks, thank you for being listeners. We want to thank you. Thank our beloved sponsors, right? They make this happen. Podfolio is this year's season 2's wonderful podcast host. Without Podfolio, this podcast wouldn't happen. They make it easy for you to kind of find your guests and get your podcast found and just kind of do the back office of the podcast. So, you know, I think we hit it hard last year why you need a podcast. We're going to hit it harder even more, but you really check out our friends over at Podfolio, and maybe we'll do just a presentation about them one of these things so people can kind of understand what that is and how easy it makes your life as the podcast host. All right. So trust is the name of the game in sales, right? And in marketing. Can I trust you? If I buy from you, will that work? What can some of our folks do in your mind, Marco, to kind of really accelerate the trust gap, right? You know, we got people trying to, you know, sell things at all times to people, which is what we do. But, you know, people won't buy if they don't like you, they don't trust you, and they don't think that what you're selling is going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think about this pretty often, Dick. This is a big part of everything that, you know, is kind of intertwined in our world, right? In the sales and marketing space. But the reality is this applies to anybody, anywhere, any industry, tech, offline. Doesn't really matter what you're doing. A lot of these principles always remain the same. Who do you know, like, and trust? Is this guy going to do what he said he's going to do? Is he just going to steal my money and run? The bigger issue I think that's at play, though, Nick, in my mind, is that obviously we are working in an evolving landscape. And, you know, the buyer has become smarter. The buyer is more savvy, more educated than he's ever been. You know, Dan used to talk a lot about the new economy. And I think we're in the new economy, because there's so many things that have transpired since that time period. And big shout out to Dan, right? I'm appreciative that he's redoing a lot of his books and coming out with new versions of them that are kind of speaking to some of these changes that we are seeing. But I even think he's probably having a hard time keeping up with it himself, because it's moving so fast. And so we have entered into the new dawn, so to speak, and the dawn of a new era, which is, everything is now information at our fingertips more than ever. We can do a lot of things on our own now, thanks to AI. It's just one of these things where it's like, gosh, man, I don't always need the things that I used to need. I can be my own lawyer now. I can be my own financial advisor now, and so, the list goes on, right? We need to figure out a way as our own salespeople, as our own product representatives, as our own service reps, how we can convey the message of not just trust, but also need. I think those two need to be intertwined. We've got to be able to show people why you shouldn't just be able to type this in and get it done yourself, because you could enter into some unknown, uncharted territory. And then also why I'm the trustworthy person. I think we have to work 10 times harder now, Nick, to prove why we are legit, because it's just such a different world now. I don't know. Give me some feedback on that intro that I just threw out there.
Well, that was good. I mean, I think you're spot on, right? So in the world of AI, right, bullish or bearish, that's another conversation for another story. The thought that I could do things myself. My favorite meme is the meme of a coffee cup, and it's a doctor's coffee cup. And on it says, I assure you, my medical degree is much smarter than anything you could Google, right? But we think that we could solve the problem just by going to AI or just Googling it.
That's
and
right.
I think it gives us some level of basis for understanding. But I do think that the trust issue is bigger in my mind. I think we're becoming extremely bipolar, two opposite spectrums as a society here in America, right? I think we don't know, because of this, what's real and what's not real, what's fake and what's not fake. Second off is anybody in their brother could get in front of a camera and just start jibber jabbering, right? And I see that all the time. It seems now, I mean, when we were growing up, you aspired to be a millionaire, right? A millionaire was something. Now it seems like everybody on YouTube is a billionaire, right? And you know what I mean? They throw these M words and these B words around with no basis of foundation of fact, right? Like, how do I know? Like one guy. There's a couple sites that debunk these people. He's like, oh yeah, I made $160 million last year. And the guy's like, no, you actually made $8 million. $8 million is certainly yeoman's work, right? But that's a big delta. And so I think the trust, especially in the information marketing space, it's just so polluted, right? And listen, if you're a lawyer, right? There's a lot. You're a local lawyer or a local financial planner. There's a lot of jibber jabber, right? A lot of gibberish in the marketplace, and so you have to kind of cut through that and do that with trust. One of the best ways to do that certainly is to publish a book, right? A book kind of adds to your credibility. I think the bigger the platform that you create to really focus on, positioning yourself and your firm vis-a-vis marketing versus, information first marketing is really, really, really smart, right? Some of the people that we had on last year, I think, are some of the best at doing that. I think of Ben Glass, right? I think if you're a lawyer, you should be following him and looking at all the things that he's doing and the proliferation of books that he's written. And obviously we're much past I just do good work and therefore my work will speak for itself. That's over, right? And fortunately, the guy next to you could be louder and worse, and but he's just louder, and so people are going to find their way to them. And I think that we don't know where to turn. Right. And so you kind of, in your field, you need to be the guy at the top of the mountain,
right? And people need to kind of find their way to you and kind of position it.
Yes.
But listen, we're going to talk this year about really how to focus on trust, how to position yourself as the authority, how to do all that, all the things that we learn as marketing and salespeople. And I think you got to accelerate deal flow. Deals are taking longer, and a lot of that is indecision, and a lot of it is, will this work? And is it just safer for me not to do anything? Right. And I think that you got to build case studies and all that stuff. If you sell in the B2B world, right, there's now 7 to 8 people around the table where before it was 2 to 3. And there's, the 7 to 8 people, it's easier for them to say no than yes. Right.
Right.
Kind of push this through.
That's right.
That was scary. Let's talk about what else is scary out there, which is becoming in the Luisi household one of the biggest, I guess I would say, the biggest celebratory weeks and months and all that, and that's Halloween, right? Yep. So the best holiday that we got coming up right now is Halloween. And we talked a little bit about last year at this time, and the numbers keep on going up. Right now, consumers are expected to spend $13.1 billion with a B. We were just talking about this on Halloween this year, which is up $1.5 billion last year.
Yeah.
So
crazy, Nick.
That's a lot of money being spent.
Yep.
Per person, this will hit to be $114.45, 11 more than last year. And I don't know about you, but like for some reason, I don't know, my wife is like into the Halloween spirit, if you will, the fall spirit. We've got a bunch of decorations on the front stoop. I saw driving around, love the entrepreneurship. I saw a sign, hey, we'll come and deliver the pumpkins to you, right? So you don't have to go out and get the pumpkins. We'll deliver them to you. You tell me what kind you want and we'll bring them. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. That was in my block. I saw like yard signs for this.
Yeah.
And so as a business owner, if you're not talking about this in your marketing, you're missing out. I mean, I see Butterfingers, they got the new marshmallow that the ads are already being out there. And so I know last time we kind of actually went through Bill Glazer's marketing with special events or holiday showcase.
That's right.
But what's your favorite thing that you've seen out there? And I know I'm throwing this over to you, but what have you seen that you really kind of liked on the marketing for Halloween tie-in?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, Nick. And I think the thing that stands out to me the most, and I'd love for you to kind of tell me your thoughts on this, but I am wondering, where did this come from, this idea that we have to now do for Halloween and other holidays, by the way, what we only used to do when I was a kid for Christmas, which is to go all out on the decorations on the outside of the house. If I drive around my neighborhood right now, probably every third house has an elaborate display out in the grass, out in the yard, right? We're talking, you have a Christmas wreath. Well, now you have a Halloween wreath, right? You've got Christmas lights. Well, now you've got Halloween lights. And then people have, all the skeleton stuff. And it looks like, there's a body hanging from a tree and, and stuff like that. That was pretty rare. I was a kid in the 80s, right? That was pretty rare. Back then we did the, some of those costumes that we wore, mom put them together on the cheap, and we were pretty happy with it. And you were lucky if maybe there was a black cat decoration or something like that and a pumpkin on the doorstep. That was about the extent of it in the 80s, It was pretty rare to see somebody go all out on it. Now we're into this season where you're just expected to basically say, okay, we go all out for Christmas, but you know what? We do the same thing for Halloween. We do the same thing for Valentine's Day. One of the things that I thought was cool was that there's a lot of people that are having these lights that are installed on their house, like on the eaves of their home.
Yeah.
And the lights are there. Basically, they're permanent installs, right? And, you have the mood lighting and stuff, but the way they sell it is you can change the colors of this thing based on the season are the holiday. So, you know, during Halloween, you can change them to kind of a orange kind of a color and stuff like that, right? And then if it's 4th of July, it's got the Patriot colors. And I think those guys are really smart, and they're tapping into that whole seasonality, the fact that so many people want to go all out now on the exterior of their home. But what do you think caused that, Nick? What was that, just a natural response or flow of you know, just free market capitalism? What is that?
So I think the answer is yes, yes, and yes, right? So let's ground it in numbers, because I always like to put facts out there. So what we spend, the dollar amount we spend on decorations is 4.2 billion. Of the 13 billion, 4.2 billion are decorations.
Crazy.
Billion with a B.
Crazy.
So you know, I think, well, one is people want to celebrate, right? And I know that, you know, there's certain groups that don't like Halloween for various reasons, and I don't want to get in the middle of that. I just think it's fun, right? I think seeing the young kids come up to your door in their superhero costumes or their whatchamajigger costumes, or, you know, it's just phenomenal to see, and it's just fun, and you're giving them candy. I mean, what joy! That's just pure joy. The other thing too, if you think about it from a political standpoint, I thought I heard that whatever the costume is that is the most popular of the presidential candidate is who wins. And I don't think it's 100%, but I think it's like 99% or 95%, right? So whatever it's kind of a predicator or a predictor, if you will, of what's going to go on. I think as in everything gets overblown, right? You know, I think what you said is I can walk down my street and it's just, you know, I think, well, one person on the block put something up, and then, you know, that was nice, you know, now the next person puts something up, and then now 2 people do it. Now it's 3. I also think that it goes back to what we started talking about, with not the lack of trust, but we just want things to celebrate, right? We just want to have some joy in our lives. I remember when I had my agency, one of our biggest clients was outdoor lighting, right? Which is the lighting of the exterior, but they certainly did product line extensions, and they came around and did the holiday lights, right? So it was called Holiday Lights, and that was a separate business line that they had. Well, you know, that business continued to grow, right? Because we kind of saw their call volume. And I think what it is one person does it on the block, and then another person does it. You know, next year 2 people do it, then 3 people, then 4 people. And if you've ever had to deal with the winding and unwinding of holiday lights, you're like, hey, if I could afford this, I'm going to have somebody do this. One of my partners said something that I thought was really extremely interesting when we were looking at like the spend of some of our advertisers and what people were calling for. The holiday lighting during COVID really spiked up because people just wanted something joyful. Right. You know, we just wanted to kind of decorate our houses, and they called earlier in the season, you know, so maybe they historically called in November. Now they're calling in October, and they're getting those lights up. And when you walked around your neighborhood and you saw it, because we were all walking around outside, you know, it brought a smile to your face, and people wanted that. And so, you know, I think why is it so big? Well, one is in America, we do everything big. You're in Texas, you guys do everything big. You know, I don't think we hold back, right? And 2 is it's just one of those holidays that is just fun, right? It's about kids, it's about joy. Certainly it's become an adult holiday. We all, you know, maybe we have, you know, certain fantasies that we're able to kind of live out through costumes. You know, bars do holiday parties, and, you know, we as marketers always figure out ways to really push the envelope, right? And to get people thinking about spending. So, I mean, I think it's fun. We have a second home in Michigan. You and I were talking about my world travels during our hiatus and our off season. And in 2 towns over, it's an adult only 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock Halloween parade, right? And it's all adults. You know, nothing more than just adults getting dressed up in their favorite, you know. And I still talk about some of the costumes that I saw. My favorite one was 4 people were dressed up like the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, right?
Oh,
certainly, it was cute,
Classic.
and so you see all the different people coming on, and people are having maybe hot toddies or hot cocoa with with a little spike in it. It's just a fun event. And there's
Yep.
Nobody is fighting, and it's not Trump this or Camelo that, or
Right.
it's just fun. And
That's right.
and that's, I think that's what the holidays allow us to do, is we kind of put we put ourselves aside, and we make a party for the community, for our friends and our family. Thanksgiving is more family orientated. Fall is a fun time, especially in the Midwest, right, and in the East Coast, right, because the foliage, it's pretty. We're revving up because we know it's going to get ugly after Christmas, right, with the cold. But I just think it's a way that that people enjoy their times. So
Sure.
that's a long answer to a short question.
No, it was good and it was appropriate, and that was kind of what I was trying to pull out. I think I'll just leave with one other thing about that. We're all doing better overall, right? That's part of the mix of this thing, is that everyone is, as a whole, increasing in their income, and they've got more money to play with, which means typically maybe in the 90s it was just more about, or the 80s it was like, well, we're just covering the basics. Now we've got expendable money for stuff, and so there's also more money to play with. And I think obviously you need to keep that in mind when you're running your business, is can we play into that discretionary income, because this is starting to become, it's moving into almost like a category of priority for a lot of people now, where it used to be like, oh, come on, that's just ridiculous. Now families are like, no, we will be decorating for all of these holidays.
Yeah, and I think, certainly one could argue social media amplifies that, right? You got to get FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, or YOLO, whatever those are. When you see the feed, right? The logarithm will feed what you think about. And if you're thinking about, hey, should I decorate, or what is good Halloween decorations, you'll get 50,000 things in your feed. So, I think there's worse things that we could spend money on. That's my opinion.
Right.
And I was thinking about what you said, and I think you're spot on with that we are all, we're upward mobility. And maybe in the 90s and the 80s when we were growing up, well, mom didn't work, right? So she had the ability to make Halloween decorations, and had the ability to make the costumes. Well, now, unfortunately, maybe mom and dad are working, right? And and we joke around here, and I don't know if they're big where you guys are, but Spirit costume stores,
absolutely,
they'll take over a strip mall within 30 seconds. As soon as it's just amazing. Right. And it's probably an interesting business model to say, but they're going in at a very specific time. They've got great marketing. We'll start, if you have children, you're probably starting to get direct mail from them, and it's just the best. So,
and by the way, Nick, if I can interject real quick.
Yeah, please.
I from something that stood out to me from a business standpoint, I noticed that company is now expanding to Christmas.
Are they? Yeah.
So they're doing Spirit holidays or what have you, which I thought was brilliant. And to be honest, I was wondering what took them so long. I'm like, I don't think these guys realize the opportunity that they're missing. You already got the building, just extended another month, and now it's Thanksgiving, which means it's time to prepare for Christmas. And so that should be a real easy. Now they can do, September, October, November, December, and just close out the end of the year with that same shop. The only thing, Nick, that I was wondering was, why hasn't Toys R Us come back as a seasonal shop like the way that those guys do the seasonal shop? I feel like if Marcus Lemonis, the profit was to go and buy toys, because he's been buying up all these old brands that disappeared, right? Have the things show up, in the month of November, and have the toys for November and December, and then close up. I bet you they'd make a killing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, you need smart entrepreneurs to kind of figure things out. You need smart marketers. I agree with you that, I thought Spirit could extend their, but maybe that's then I said, well, maybe that's their value prop, as they come into a landlord and say, hey, listen, I'm taking this for 30, 60, 90 days, and then we're out, but allow you 90 days of revenue to go find somebody to do permanent. So I think it's interesting model. And listen, we're already in the Christmas season. I don't know about you, but I was in Home Depot and Menards doing some home projects last weekend, and they already got Christmas stuff out, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
we're gonna blink and we're gonna fight our way through. We're gonna rush Thanksgiving as we always do.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about like if you think about, because we think about demographics as marketers, right? We think about audiences and demographics and who's spending and who's spending what, right?
Yeah.
And so let's kind of go through what age groups are spending what. And so you as the marketer should be thinking about, is this my target audience and does it resonate? So while you kind of think that through, I want to ask you this question. What's the number one selling candy?
Oh, geez. I'm going to say that's probably Reese's peanut butter cups.
Very good. It is the number one. All right.
Okay.
So
that's what I figured.
The average American, we said, spends $296 on Halloween, right? And that's candy, costumes, decor, and entertainment. But now, if you think about specific Gen Zs, right? Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, and baby boomers, what does that spending break down to? Okay. So
All
millennials, right. So who do you think spends the most?
On something like that, I would imagine it would be millennials.
Okay. Who do you think spends the least?
Gosh, probably the oldest group in the mix.
Baby boomers? Okay.
I would think the
boomers.
You're
spot on, as always. Smart guy. Millennials spend $522. Gen Z spends $435. Gen X, which I think is ours. I'm a Gen X. I think you are too.
Yep.
$325. And baby boomers are $89.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, they don't have the kids, right? The baby boomers you just have the grandkids.
That's right.
So, if you think about the spend, right? Listen, we both have an affinity for Dan Kennedy, right? He always said, people will find a way to spend on what is important to them.
That's right.
And I think this amplifies this, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in the sales pitch and they said, I got to think about it. I don't have the money, I don't have the budget, anything like that. They'll find a way to spend $325 on their family, on their decorations and the holiday, right? So think that in mind. We all will spend on what is important to us and what we will find that money to spend. So the question is my marketing good enough to break through the clutter and the noise to make it desirable as it is for Halloween spending, right? So obviously last year we talked about how to tie into the holidays, which you need to. But today I want to talk a little bit about when we talked a little bit about money's being spent. How do you make your product or service or information as desirable as a Halloween spend, right? And so that's the homework for the day, folks.
There it is.
Anything as we kind of close out the rant? We should have just named this Nick's rant about Halloween and the importance of Halloween spending.
Yeah, no. This was cool. This is always fun. I always enjoy talking about the holidays because it's such a significant opportunity for most businesses. So it's worthwhile. But no, I'm excited for season 2, Nick. You've kind of gone over a list of some of the people that you're hoping to line up, and there are some phenomenally smart, phenomenally talented business owners and entrepreneurs on your list. So I cannot wait to get in with them and talk with them and listen to them and learn from them. Because as always, we try to, your network is your net worth, so to speak. So it's always nice to have these people in our community because I always learn something. So I guess we can leave off with that little tease to what's to come for season 2 because it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we're going deep in the Rolodex, and there may be the millennials and Gen Z don't even know what that phrase is, but we're going deep in the Rolodex. We're bringing out some all-stars, and we want to talk about all things marketing and all things sales because we are the podcast for sales rebels and marketing mavericks. And folks, none of this happens without our wonderful sponsor, Portfolio.io, right? Look them up online. If you want to do a podcast, and we beat that the heck of why you need a podcast, make it easy on yourself. Use this tool to really automate and do everything We're in the AI world, right? We don't want to be Luddites, and we got to really just make things happen. And why not start your podcast off on the right foot by having Podfolio kind of do everything for you. Marco, you want to play us out?
You got it, my friend. It's been fun as always.
Hey, folks, if you like this, please send this to a friend. Like us, put a comments. If you want to talk to somebody specifically, let us know. If we know them, we'll get them on here for you. Share this so we get more than 3 listeners. It needs to be beyond my mom and Marco's mom and my third cousin. So feel free. Thanks, folks.
All right. We'll see.
Thanks for tuning in to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Keep pushing the limits in your business. And remember, the Mavericks and Rebels are always ahead of the game. Catch you next time.